In this lesson, we'll save the user's email address entry into our app component state. So we currently have what are called uncontrolled elements in React. So if I scroll down to our inputs right here, when I use the word uncontrolled, what I mean is that React is not fully in control of them. What I mean by this is if we were to, for example, submit this form and have to capture the email address that the user has entered into this input field, there is no way to do so using React features. This value of whatever the user types in here, for example, test@email.com, this exists within the browser input element. It exists within the DOM, but it doesn't actually exist as any kind of construct within our React application. And that's totally fine in a way, right? We could manually reach into this specific input and pull out that value, but that breaks the spirit of React. That's a very manual, kind of hard-coded, handwritten way of doing something that React can automate for us. This is almost the way that things were done before React when we had libraries like jQuery. We would target specific elements on the DOM, we would find them, we would reach into them and pull out their value at the point that the user submitted the form, and it's kind of an older paradigm. It's a lot easier to accomplish this kind of logic by keeping a lot of this information in React. And one way we can do that is every time the user types a character into a field like email address, we can simply update the component state, right? Because component state is supposed to represent data that is changing over time. Well, the user entering characters into an input field is a perfect example of data changing over time. And if we keep it in component state and update that state with every character, then whenever the user submits the form, we'll have all the data that we need already collected in the component state, and we can use that state as the basis of the data that we submit when the form is submitted, right? Let's take a look at how that's going to work technically. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a new property to our state, and we initialize state right here. Remember, this is just another way to write the code we previously had in our constructor method, and our state can have as many properties as we want. So in addition to login mode, I'm going to add another state property called email, and I'm going to give it an initial value of an empty string. Then, where are we actually going to write the code that's going to update that piece of state? Well, we're going to write it right here in the handle email change method, because remember, this method is going to run automatically whenever the user changes the input. In other words, when the user enters or deletes a character into this specific email input field. This method is going to run, and it's going to give us that React event object, and we know that on that event object, we have a target property with its own object, and on that object, we have a value property, and that is going to be the most up-to-date entry that the input has, what the input has at that moment in time. So whatever this string is what we want to save to the state. So we're going to follow the exact same protocol we previously had. We're going to use this. We're going to invoke the setState method to update component state. Then we're going to provide an object specifying what properties we want to update. We don't care about login mode, but we do care about email. And we want to update email to whatever event.target.value is on the current event that is flowing in. So keep in mind, this logic will run on every single character press. So for example, if the user enters the character T, then this method will run, and event.target.value will be equal to T, and that will become the new value of the email state property. I can in fact show you this using the React developer tools in Chrome. So I'm going to bring up my inspector, and then right here I'm going to go to my components tab, and I'm going to select the app component, and you can see right here that we have that email state property appear with its value of T, and as I type another character like E, notice that this updates in a quick moment. So whenever I type a character, we once again run this method. That new event object and its target property and its value property has the updated string TE, and that is what we write to the email property on state using the setState method. Same rules apply if I add a character like an S, there you can see it appear, and same rules apply if I delete a character like so. All right, so now our component state is updating to reflect the current value of one input, and what we're going to do in the future is, of course, create a separate property on state for each input that we have, And then when the form is ready to be submitted, the state holds all the most up-to-date values of those entries, and they're ready to go to submit to, let's say, a backend endpoint whenever the form is ready to be submitted. All right, so that is how we connect component state to things like input fields on our DOM. All right, that's all there is to cover in this lesson. So I will see you in the next one.